Welcome to everybody who's joined us this evening. As you can see, we will be starting at 5 minutes past 8. Just to allow a few more to join us. That way, we just hopefully have a few less interruptions as we go on. So, thank you all for joining on time. And like I said, just a couple more minutes and we'll jump straight into it. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone is well. Hope the week is treating you all great and you're all achieving good goals. Please forgive us tonight. We're having to just be a bit more vigilant in how we're going about streaming our actual broadcast. It seems that certain people who want to misbehave have tried to disrupt us a week back. So once again, we're having to just be a bit more vigilant with just disabling the chat. That will be enabled later on as we go. And also, of course, disable anyone just wanting to just unmute themselves. So once again, forgive us for being pedantic, but it is to ensure we have a safe space here. We are not here to allow anybody to come on cursing and being racist or any of that nonsense. Again, we're here to learn and understand how we can and all. So, without further ado, thank you once again. Greetings and salutations. You're probably going to see a few people coming in as we go along, as that's how it usually happens. And without further ado, let me share the actual screen and we'll get straight into it. Okay, so allow me a moment, everyone. Just waiting for the actual system to catch up with me there. Excellent. Okay, so just to reiterate, this broadcast is being recorded. So it is being recorded on the likes of Facebook, Instagram, and I believe we should have one more as well. I do apologize, it completely goes by me right now. But please, once again, just be mindful that when you are unmuted, when you come on to either ask a question, give your response on anything at all, please be mindful this is going out to the World Wide Web. So by all means, make a good representation of yourself and those whom you represent. Thank you with that. So for those who are still joining us, thank you, welcome and salutations. And here is the agenda for today. We'll be going through a few introductions. We'll be going through a state of play with regards to TTIP and what we are currently doing. We'll be imploring one and all to become volunteers and supporters. So once again, no matter how much time you have in your hand, whether that be you can help us full time or just a couple of hours a week, we always welcome everybody to join us in any capacity. And just what most of you have come on to see today, we'll have some guest speakers. We'll have a lovely team with Debbie and Dwayne, who are the actual people who have founded the Black British Parent. So they'll be going through their particular slides and giving everyone exactly their rundown on what they do and how they help the community. We will then move on to Donna Murray Turner, who is the founder and lead practitioner of ANOS. That stands for Another Night of Sisterhood. So once again, our sister will also advise what she does and how she helps the community. And of course, as you can appreciate, we'll have the usual Q&A for both parties. So welcome Debbie and Dwayne, and welcome Donna Murray Turner for helping us tonight. And obviously, if we have any time left, any other business. But I'm pretty sure we'll have enough Q&A for Debbie, Dwayne, and Donna tonight. Now, what I'm going to do is just allow the actual chat to come live. So by all means, if you've got any questions as I'm going through, please do put it in the actual in the actual chat box. By all means, just for housekeeping as well, please do either virtually raise your hand or raise your hand via the actual webcam itself. We'll do our best to view you and, of course, allow you to ask the questions in due course. So let's get the chat underway. Excellent. That's all done. So, introductions. Just to confirm, my name is Darren Bryan. So I'll be your host for this evening. So, if we have any members of the press, it would be all very nice if you would actually introduce yourselves, just advise as to what capacity you are joining us in this evening. That would always be welcome. TTIP, we're currently doing food larders every Wednesday. We also have a GoFundMe page. So my colleague will put those details in the chat momentarily. Of course, we're looking for people to become members. Once again, we are here to represent you, the people. We are not career politicians. We are not career MPs. We've had enough of that, of the current state of play with the Labour Party, Lib Dems, Conservatives, and whomever else you may want to put into that bubble as well. We do believe that things can be done better and can be better for everyone in the UK. So we're here to represent you, the people. So by all means, please do also look to be a member. And once again, that information will be put into the chat in due course. Some of the positions we are looking for as well are local elections for councillors. So when they do come up, we'll be looking to put certain councillors in place. With that being said, that means you will be having the adequate training. You won't just be put out there with no strategy behind you, no support behind you. We're also looking for steering group leader as well. Now, once again, we will put the information in the chat. So please do utilize that. So that means you will need to actually go to our website and, of course, sign up from there. What we're currently doing in the Croydon area is putting up billboards because we have what's known as community heroes. With regard to community heroes, this is actually nationwide. So by all means, if there's anyone who you believe has gone above and beyond in your particular community, please feel free to go onto our website. There is a particular section there, bannered community heroes, and please put in their information and as to why you would like to nominate said person. And as I've mentioned before, we are here to push your points and views as you are the people of the UK. Once again, we are not here to be career politicians, career MPs, and so on and so forth. We want to represent you, the people, and finally have your voice heard and acknowledged and actually actioned upon within the UK. So, as I've mentioned before, we've had our volunteers and supporter section as well. So if you look into the chat, you will see the information in there. So please feel free to log in and register yourself. Now, if you do have anything directly which you would like to question us on, please do feel free to email our colleague Amina, as you can see on the screen right now. If it's anything in particular with regards to being a volunteer and supporters application, please do put that in the subject matter, just so at least Amina knows exactly what it is regarding. Anything else, please name the subject matter accordingly. With that being said, simple things, please put in your name, your email address, telephone number or numbers, your skill set, pardon me, what you would like to assist TTIP with. And with that being said, we are also looking to recruit a marketing assistant and campaign assistant in due course as well. And alongside that, also a press release officer and a steering group members. So by all means, if you think you're up for the task, do get in contact with us. We would welcome everybody and anybody to help us grow this party to the party what we believe it can be. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go to Debbie and Dwayne, who run the blackbritishparent.co.uk website. So once again, I would ask one and all, if you have questions, please put it into the chat. I will say, just to help myself and my colleagues, prefix it with a Q for question and then put in your question, or alternatively, please raise your virtual hand and we will get to you as soon as possible. So Debbie and Dwayne, I'm going to unmute you both now. And by all means, I'll be in charge of the slides, so just advise me as and when you want me to move on to the next. But before we go on to the slides, I'll just stop sharing the screen just so you can actually give a quick hello to everybody. And then by all means, we'll get straight into it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to join you on this Zoom chat this evening. I'm Debbie.
And I'm Dwayne.
And as you've introduced us already, we run a platform called Black British Parent. And what it is that we do there is that we create safe spaces for Black families to work together, communicate together, and work on themselves. Our motto is to better ourselves for our children, and that's what our focus is at Black British Parent.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we're ready to go into the slides now, yes?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Okay, so our lived experience of basically is ourselves being children, being brought up in the UK and having parents ourselves, and then becoming parents and having children too. And we've noticed a lot of things that our children and us as parents have to go through. And there's not many spaces for Black families to reflect or discuss or take a look at what we're having to deal with as parents and as adult children and children for our children. And most of the spaces that we found that were available for parents weren't really reflective of us as a community and our culture and our experiences. So we ourselves, we're home educators. We've been elective home educators for 10 plus years. We have 3 children. Age 17, well, we say children, but our eldest is becoming a young woman at the moment. She'll be 18 this year. And we have an 11-year-old and soon to be 12, and a 9-year-old soon to be 10. My eldest had been to school. She went to school perhaps, I think for 2 years in nursery school and reception. We used to live in Croydon. We don't live in Croydon at the moment, but at the time when she went to school in Croydon. So we've been home educating for 10 plus years. Our 2 youngest children have never been to school. I myself have, forefronted Black British Parent to begin with around my interests and what I was already doing. So I'm a doula, which is a professional birth assistant. I coach and assist women emotionally through the pregnancy and birth and after birth period. I'm also a life coach, which help people to set and obtain their goals. And I'm also a parent mentor. So I kind of combine all 3 of those professions for myself with helping families and particularly Black families, African and Caribbean families. So that's basically the crux of what we do at Black British Parent. Did you want to add anything?
No, that was completely comprehensive.
Next slide, please.
So probably about 8+ years ago, we set up a Facebook group just to kind of share our experiences as Black British parents. And then we was also at the same time going to loads of different events within the community and having conversations and seeing that there was a real need for us as a community to come together and kind of debrief on our experiences as children or adults growing up in the UK. And this is what birthed Black British Parent. Since then, we've grown an Instagram account, a community of about 25,000, predominantly UK citizens, for lack of a better word. And we have Sunday conversations at around 11 o'clock where we come together and discuss matters that might have arisen during that week. And it's just a space for us to all come together and share our thoughts and opinions on what's been going on of recent times. We have monthly meetings. We just finished our home education meeting where every month for free we host a conversation with experienced and newbie home editors and people that might just have an interest in it and just want to have more information before they take that leap into home education. And we also run a discussion and study group once a month also. Again, for us to come together and discuss certain matters within our community and how we move forward as a community. We also provide parenting consultations, which can be booked via our website. And we've, over our course of our period of being parents and British citizens, we've managed to amass a vast network of colleagues, professionals that work in loads of different industries to kind of point people in the direction as and when they need assistance with matters of parenting or just any matter, really.
Do you want to go into the next slide?
Indeed.
Thank you. Yes, and more importantly, our main focus is the Black family. And we get a lot of questions about, other people from other ethnic origins who may have mixed race children. And whilst there is definitely a need for those kinds of families, we're not, disputing interracial mixed families, but we find that there's a lot more out there for people than we are able to provide for Black families and our experiences with Black families. So that's where our focus is on with Black parents and Black families. So we have a list of resources that we always refer families to. And the first one is nabs.org, which is a national network of African heritage and supplementary schools. I understand that he's recently been updating the information on there. So it's a definitely good resource that I think all families should have.
Especially where a lot of people are currently in a climate of concern for their children and their education. And there's been this resurgence of a need for Saturday schools. So we heavily recommend going to this website to check out
what's available in our community. And also we heavily recommend the Black Child Agenda, who unapologetically is speaking up and protecting our children from the prison to the school to prison pipeline. Her work is amazing. She has an extensive network of legal professionals that are able to assist families.
mainly pertaining to if your child's having issues within the school system of prejudice, racism,
and exclusions.
And
we also highly recommend more education. He is online at the moment. He used to be in person, but at the moment he does online tuition for families, for children with at least support with GCSEs. He also specialises with doing financial literacy and Black history studies for children as well on the weekends. We also have Teach on Our Own that is run by Leah Salmon. I think the website's in the middle of being developed, but you can follow them on their social media platforms, and that's worth checking out because that is a predominantly Black-focused home education support network that's being developed.
You can also kind of book one-to-one sessions with her if you need to know more about home education as well.
And also check out Smart Kids as well. They have a family interactive event coming up on the 20th of February. It recently was Children's Mental Health Week, and that's something that we, especially given the period that we're in right now, the current climate, is something that we advocate for, supporting children in that way. And then obviously...
And that's Smart Kids.
Yeah, Smart Kids. And obviously we have ourselves, Black British Parent. You can see our website and our email address at the bottom of the slide.
If you go to our events tab, it shows you all of the events that we'll be hosting. And if you leave your details, then it's a space for us to kind of add you to our mailing list and keep you up to date with what's going on with ourselves.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both for that, Debbie and Dwayne. Absolutely brilliant. So with that being the case, like I said, we do have also another speaker in the form of Donna Murray Turner. Let's go to some Q&A. So let's stop the share for now. So once again, thank you to one and all who have joined us. By all means, if you're looking for any questions, please do raise your digital hand, or alternatively, write your question in the chat and we will get to you as soon as possible. Or failing that, by all means, you can actually raise your hand via your webcam and I will do my best to get to you as quickly as we can. So if you don't mind, if I could actually be a bit naughty and ask my first question, Debbie and Dwayne. So with the current climate as it is, would you say you're seeing more of an uptake in your services compared to before COVID, or would you say the uptake has been greater whilst we're in this pandemic? Oh, you're both on mute, sorry. Give me one moment. I think it may have just automatically done that.
Sorry, can you ask that question again?
My apologies. So I was asking, in the current state of the pandemic, have you seen more of an uptake for people requesting your services, or how would you say it's more or less being at a steady ebb for now?
I think in the initial stages, there was more of an uptake. It has like a kind of ebbs and flow and different points. I think some families in the initial stages were perhaps a lot more concerned, particularly where home education was concerned. And as the time's gone on, some families have got more comfortable. But, you know, it has its moments. Some families are obviously continuing to homeschool. I mean, there's different types of homeschooling. We regard ourselves as elective home educators, which is very different to homeschooling, which people during this COVID pandemic are doing. So some people needed support through homeschooling, but then later on might find that they're going to continue home educating electively, so would require a different kind of advice, especially as the recent lockdown has happened. So it really kind of, you can see with the ease of lockdown and when the lockdown's been implemented, how
there's a surge of people that are interested or want more information. At the beginning of the initial lockdown, what we done for the community was we kind of we got a list of all the professionals within our networks and decided to host a series of seminars to kind of answer different questions that the community may have had, just to kind of reassure our community that this isn't a time for panic, but a time for us to kind of reflect on where we are, what our goals are, long term, short term, and kind of stable ourselves, sustain ourselves during that period. And as people kind of got comfortable with the current situation, as Debbie mentioned, it kind of slowed down in terms of interest. But again, we're currently going through this period where everyone's concerned about their GCSEs and their teenagers, and there's again, people are concerned and coming to us to kind of get some answers or some direction.
And also, our home education and discussions groups actually were pushed to happen because of the COVID lockdown, because we realised that as much as there are WhatsApp groups, which are very important and vital to the home education community, and the Facebook and social media groups, etc., there still wasn't a person-to-person kind of conversation happening so much unless you knew people directly. So we found that, there's times when it's much needed and there's times when it's, very busy or very quiet, but people know that it's there for them. So that it's been up and down. It just really does depend on the time.
Okay, thank you both for that. And with that being said, we have a few hands up there. So we'll first go to Julia Davidson. So Julia, I'm going to unmute you in just a moment. So I believe you're now live now, Julia.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Debbie and Dwayne. Thank you for your presentation. What I would like to ask is, because of the educational system, are you accredited teaching mechanism in terms of, are you sourced by the education system, especially where our young Black children are sometimes excluded from schools? Do you get that succession of pupils coming to you through the educational system? And secondly, in terms of qualifications in the children's development and learning, what are the examinations, if there are any, that you have in place that will demonstrate that they are meeting the criteria? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think it can be misunderstood in terms of the work that we do. Our work is focused on parents, not on children. We don't provide a home education service for children. We're not tutors. So with regards to your first question, in terms of our academics or our qualification in that respect, we don't have any where that's concerned.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of people already in our communities that are doing these works. So what we do is we point people in the direction of those that are accredited and that can carry out that work. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're just trying to provide a safe space for us to come together and solve some of our issues that are within the community. So with regards to education for our young, that's why we always push people in the direction of the NABS website or More Education, who are accredited tutors and can help you with regards to the education for your children. With regards to the situation where children are being kicked out of school and the kind of double standard within the school systems that our children are faced with, this is where we advocate for the Black Child Agenda, Cheryl Phoenix. Cheryl Phoenix has been on the ground day one advocating for Black children within the schools when it comes to even dealing with children getting kicked out because of their hairstyles and silly things like that, let alone when it comes to the mishandling of situations by teachers, head teachers, and them not following their own protocols. So again, we just point people in the directions of the people that are accredited and best suited to those situations. And there was another question that you had as well.
What was your second question, darling? Sorry.
how are they meeting their expectations? But I think you answered that in your summary. And are you accessed? I would like to add a supplementary question, which is, are you just centering in London, or is there networks to reach for your support, i.e. in terms of signposting for the parents to access, seeing that you're not tutoring children? But I think it's a great concept that you've got going on. And how long have you been doing it? Thank you. That's my last question.
We have a vast network of people all over throughout the UK. And we couldn't tell you exactly where they are. We're also in the middle of redeveloping aspects of our website, so we can have a resources kind of space so people know who and where, what's available to them. I don't know, it's kind of crazy because right now, fortunately or unfortunately, everything's online, so everybody can have access to everyone. You don't have to live in London to be able to get access to what's available in London. We've been running Black British Parent on Facebook for about 10 years or more, I think. And that was just a group where everybody could share whatever they wanted and, bring awareness to certain issues and things like that. Our Instagram page has been running for about 3 years or so now. So, but yeah, it's grown pretty quickly, and more so quickly during the COVID pandemic, obviously. We're not necessarily centered and focused on education, like I said. We try to cover many different perspectives, even perspective that doesn't necessarily align with ours. We're not, a democracy in that kind of respect. We try to be as inclusive as possible and allow a safe space for Black families to communicate.
And have open conversations.
Yeah.
I would also like to add, I was going to add something, but I can't remember what it was. That's right. It'll probably come back to me later anyway.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both for that. Thank you, Julia, for the question. Charles, as you was actually the person who introduced me to Debbie and Dwayne, anything you would like to add in there, sir?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
You well. No, I was just taking it all in, actually. Do you know what? I've got a question, and I don't know if everyone would be cool with me jumping. No, do you know what? I'll save my question till the end. I'll let everyone know, because I know people get funny about things like that, and I don't want there to be any nepotism. So I'll save my question till the end, and then I'll let everyone else theirs first, and I'll come back to mine. But no, nice presentation. Loved it, guys. All right.
Thank you.
Another thing I'd like to add as well is that when we're speaking from a home education, it's purely on the basis of this is our personal experience. It's not something that we'd probably push onto other people. Everyone's circumstances are different, but we're just here to let people know that there's other alternatives if the mainstream school system isn't working for them and they can't afford private school, but they're able to kind of create a safe space to learn with their children and educate their children. So we don't provide a service per se, but we allow safe spaces for us to have the conversations and for us to all learn from each other.
So before we go on to our next person to ask a question, one from me as well for both yourself, Debbie and Dwayne. Do you have many from the community very inquisitive as to how you go about homeschooling? And do you have any within the community who would like to follow your example and homeschool their own children?
We have a lot of people inquisitive, asking questions, and that's probably one of the reasons why we began Black British Parent, not to be focused so much from home education perspective, but more so from an alternative family parent lifestyle. A lot of people we used to talk to before at previous events that we were attending was that, more of us need to know more about this, and not so much just the educational aspects of things, but obviously the perspective that we parent from a holistic, from an authentic kind of space. And we're very much about self-empowerment. We're very much about learning and unlearning, relearning, self-reflection, and incorporating that into our parenting and how we raise our children and the mindset we intend for our children to have. I think there's a lot of families that find out that we're home educating, and a lot of elders particularly wish they had home educated their children. We have a lot of families that wish they could home educate, but obviously for them, it's getting your head around the financial aspect and how to make it be financially viable for themselves, which can be a tricky one to negate around. But there are opportunities out there that can work for different families. It's just finding a way that works for you. I mean, the way that we home educate might not work for somebody else who home educates. We're very much child-led. Whatever our children are interested in is what we base our curriculum around. Being elective home educators means that we don't have to follow mainstream curriculums. Being homeschooling, which is what everybody's doing now, if their children are in school and learning online via their schools, is very much mainstream school.
They've still got an obligation to follow the national curriculum, heavily reliant on teachers to educate their children. And to a certain degree at the moment, from what I've observed, is that parents are just creating a space they're supposed to support, if they're even of that mindset, if that isn't too harsh to say.
Yeah.
But again, parents during this period are having difficulties because naturally they didn't sign up for this. The pandemic's thrown a lot of people's perceptions, ideas, and their plans out the window. So I think at this stage we are having to kind of adjust to a lot of different things. In terms of our personal experience with home education, I think obviously we started that like a decade ago, before this whole situation happened. So people's a lot of people's perceptions weren't as receptive to what it is now. So there'd be a little bit of resistance when we first started the home education journey, with regards to people not understanding why you would take your child out of mainstream education. They'd think you was experimenting with your children, and they'd be concerned about the socialization aspect and what your child, how your child's going to achieve their GCSEs. And now that we've reached this stage today where all of those things are out the window for many children that are in mainstream education. At the moment, they're sitting down in front of their screens from 9 till 3 o'clock. There isn't that opportunity to educate and to socialize because everyone's pretty much in lockdown. So,
we've actually had a short experience of children being in school during this COVID pandemic. We had someone who needed a bit of help with us looking after their children because they weren't well, and so we had a time, it was just bizarre to see what parents that are not home educators essentially having to deal with, and it was really quite heartbreaking. There's two young boys, one was in secondary school age and one's in primary school, and dealing with looking at what the oldest child was having to deal with. I mean, and they were from Croydon area as well, ironically, and looking what he had to go through in terms of his kind of flippantness towards the lessons that he was having to learn, and he wasn't really paying much attention, and I could see kind of why. I think he probably learned more in the conversations we was having with him than perhaps he was having online. I'm not saying all schools like this, but this is what the experience was. And with the younger child, we had a few conversations with his teachers, and the way that they were the way that they were speaking about the younger child was as though he cannot concentrate, and he gets frustrated and kicks. And it was almost, I thought, it can sound very biased coming from me being a home educator for so long, and that's not my intention. I'm just speaking from what I actually experienced, and I'm very much for the children. And so in this experience, I have a teacher tell me about this child that I've had in our care for this short period of time. We never had that experience. We purchased books for him to sit down and do workbooks and stuff, and he was able to focus and concentrate. So it makes me wonder, their experience of how he may react in class and in school compared to how we were able to communicate and get to him, help him to understand and learn things. And even there was times when I think he almost burst into tears because he didn't want to do particular work. And by the time, I sat down with him and asked him about what it was that was making him feel that way, he was telling me that the teacher said that he wasn't able to do. And by the time we sat down and went through the work, he was able to accomplish it. I was like, see, you can do it. And he himself felt so much better. And it's just heartbreaking to see these kinds of things happen. And unfortunately, parents don't necessarily know that this is happening. Do you get what I'm saying? Because of whatever us as parents are focused on or having to think about, and just assuming that you send your child to school, there's qualified teachers there, and they are going to educate your children. But some of our children are struggling in these establishments. So I don't know, take from that what you will, But I have had moments over the years where I'm thinking, I suppose if you're a good parent, you're gonna always question, am I doing the right thing by my children? Have I made the right decision? And being a home educator and having so much resistance with regards to home education, most home educators will be able to, testify to that. And always wondering if I'm making the right decisions for my children. After that short experience, having those children that were in schools, I do not have any shadow of a doubt that I made the right decision to home educate my children electively.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you both again for that. Okay, so sorry for me stealing the questions, everyone. Let's quickly go back to those who have their hands up. So, Alan, I'm going to unmute you, sir. So, when you unmute yourself, feel free to ask your question.
Thank you, Darren. Can you hear me okay?
Indeed.
Good evening, Dwayne and Debbie.
Hi.
Thanks very much for coming. That's amazing what you're saying. How come we haven't heard of you before? I mean, like, there's been times when I've been in my Black family crisis and I've never heard of you. We've actually asked people desperately, who can help in these situations, and you've never ever come up as an answer. So what's happened? How can we do not seem to know about you?
I think predominantly those that know us via social media. So it depends on what networks or groups that you're a part of, I suppose. We know each other now. So,
yeah.
I mean, going forward, we're always going to be here to try and support and push people. We don't necessarily always have all the answers, so we look to professionals or look at our network and see who can help our families when they're in need.
Well, I appreciate that. And the other question was, do you actually do a school online that people can get homeschooling from as an alternative to mainstream? Is that something that you actually do?
No, what we don't. With homeschooling, I think it's a very personal experience that you go through with your child. Every child's got their different needs, and you have to kind of build a relationship with your child to get an understanding of what their needs are, what their learning styles are, what their interests are, and kind of develop a system whereby you're giving them the basics. Well, in our experience, you're giving them the basics in regards to English, maths, science, but then from our personal experience in finding what their interests are and then building a curriculum or studying in depth into what their interests are, so they then develop a hunger to actually learn and become passionate.
So how would I get that for my child?
What we offer, I mean,
I'm not happy with the school that we have, so how would I get that?
Home educating your children electively. I do know that it's really difficult for us because I don't necessarily like promoting home education in that respect, because I feel like, unfortunately, I'm trying to be very diplomatic and careful with my words.
Well, I personally don't feel qualified to home educate my child.
But I neither am I. I left school for GCSEs. But my eldest is now a certified chef, and she runs cooking lessons online for children. She's going to be 18 this year.
And that's her own business.
That's her own business that she's developed and done by herself.
I think
so
we want to
exactly
kind of...
you guys do.
I think what it is we have to challenge our perceptions of what education actually is.
Yes.
We just literally came off of a group, a home education group that we kind of run every month, once a month.
Where we help parents to understand, or help them to understand what it is that they're seeking to achieve with their children, and how to perhaps negate within their means how to go about doing that. Giving
them another alternative.
Yeah. But at the same time, the thing you have to understand is what we were prepared for no longer exists. So, but the education system hasn't changed to accommodate that. So we now have to look at new ways as to how we're going to support our children for the future that is somewhat digital in a sense, but we're still being kind of taught in a space where we're sitting at a desk and it's still the industrial age kind of system.
And on top of that as well, we also have to take into consideration that us as parents, I mean, in our community, in the African Caribbean community, there's a lot of dysfunction, and sometimes we're not even aware of our own dysfunction. So when we're trying to teach our child something and they're frustrated and we're frustrated, how we react to that can actually have a huge detrimental impact on our children. Yeah. So we try, that's where our, so we have 2 groups that we have monthly. One of them is a home education group, and that's where we discuss home education, right? And then we have another group where which is a parent study and discussion group, where we talk about things pertaining to us as adults in parenting, emotionally, mentally, physically, etc. So because just it's important to have emotional intelligence, and that's not something we're taught ourselves as adults. It's not something we're taught. Our children are taught. So it's something that we encourage parents to learn to heal and better themselves, so that they can be better parents, first of all, and also be more effective home educating parents with their children.
Okay.
And the
online,
Sorry?
Online?
Yeah, there's Zoom meetings, normally on a Wednesday, and depending on the time. But if you go to our website, you can see on the events tabs that there's registration links to be able to join us at those meetings.
Okay. Thanks very much, guys.
The other thing as well is not everyone, as Debbie said, is able to home educate. So in those instances, we push them in the direction of more education
and NABS.
And NABS. So more being MOORE education. And he's pretty much providing a tutor service for our children.
And we're soon to have a directory of more resources and services that's available in our community. So just pay attention to our website.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Darren.
Not a problem. Thanks, Alan. Okay, and we're going to go swiftly on to Amina. You should be able to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Thank you. Hi, Dwayne. Hi, Debbie. Thank you for coming on. Hi, and thank you for sharing your experiences and your story as well. It's great to hear and it's great to meet you. What my question is, I guess, I mean, I personally don't have kids, but I do know a lot of parents who are currently struggling to engage their kids in the current lockdown climate when it comes to homeschooling. So what would you say is your top tip, kind of the go-to thing that you would say to parents to help them in relation to keeping their kids engaged when it comes to homeschooling and helping them succeed?
I think the first thing is to be patient with self first, and be patient with our children. Remember that we're in a climate, a time now that's never been here before, not in our lifetime anyway. And there's so much misinformation around, we see it on social media, and that's why we share things that we share on our social media, so we can have these conversations. But the point is that just really be patient, because our mental health is more important than anything else right now, as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot happening UK-wide, not just in our community, that's impacting us and our mental health and our children's mental health. So that's the first thing I focus on and try to encourage families to do. So not everyone can afford or feels comfortable with therapy, but we do encourage people to practice mindfulness. There's loads of free resources on the internet, on YouTube, to practice mindfulness, things like meditation, affirmations, these kinds of things, and perhaps connecting with other groups on social media that resonate with you, and you can speak your experiences comfortably with people too. So that's what we recommend before even focusing on education.
The brutal honesty is, I feel that a lot of our children don't even see themselves with a future. And I think it's a matter of the parents kind of trying to have conversations or engage with their children and get to know them on a personal level, and creating a safe space so that the child can feel like they can come to them and have open discussions and conversations, regardless of whether that parent will feel comfortable or not. I think we've got to come out of our comfort zones. I know I have. I've had to come out of my comfort zone.
I'm normally the one that does the home educating until he's been working from home. So it's been an experience. But also as well, something that I've had to learn to do before this COVID situation was also to take into account, for example, my children don't go to school, and some of the things that they might do that's like considered naughty or cheeky that they might get away with in school, being at home with me 24/7, there's no room for that. So sometimes I have to let things slide. It's not letting my children be rude or sneaky, but it's allowing cheeky. It's allowing them to have a bit of space and to explore and explore their boundaries and stuff. So again, we have to be mindful of these kinds of things. When they're in the house all the time, they're gonna act up. They're gonna be agitated. They're gonna be frustrated. They're gonna be missing their friends. They're gonna be missing their teachers. They're gonna be missing the routine that they. I mean, now I suppose they might be used to things being the way that they are, but they're probably still remembering what it was before. Do you see what I mean? And with these talks as well of us talking